Hello again. I'm always ready to believe that middle-aged men, especially those towards the older end of that spectrum, have said things to women which are sleazy or tacky. Since a man at the centre of the latest media storm is 60, I am unlikely to be surprised if I learn that he has been coming out with sexist stuff, off-coloured jokes and so on. That is rather a distinguishing feature of the breed, I'm afraid. The only problem is that nobody seems willing to say too much about what Gregg Wallace is actually accused of. The first thing we observe is that he has not been accused of doing anything. In other words, nobody has suggested that he has touched or assaulted any women. It seems to boil down to the fact that he made some women feel uncomfortable. Well, sometimes people make me feel uncomfortable, but I don't write letters to the papers calling for them to be sacked as a result of my own purely subjective feelings. For example, in the newspapers today, we read that a woman called Melanie Sykes, who was, as I understand it, a television personality, felt that she was driven out of television by a cook called Gregg Wallace, who apparently judges people's attempts to prepare food on a television programme. From all that I am able to apprehend without actually having seen this show, it's a bit like the Generation game with Bruce Forsyth, which was so popular in the 1970s. People bake cakes or cook fish, and then some judges come along and ridicule them for their efforts. These type of programs seem to be all the rage today, and they're part of a general trend known as reality television. It seems that a woman called Melanie Sykes, who was once a model advertising things like shampoo and beer, and then later worked as a television presenter, took part in the program MasterChef, which is what this program is called, in 2021. She has explained in her autobiography, and also in a recent YouTube video, how Gregg Wallace's behaviour caused her to abandon her career in television. He greeted her by asking if models eat, which was presumably a reference to the fact that so many models are very thin. It seems that Sykes felt this to be unprofessional and to display ignorance and disrespect. She then goes on to explain that some of the unprofessional behaviour on the programme was jaw-dropping, but doesn't give any details. She says too that when Gregg Wallace was near her, she didn't like it because, and I quote, "It's all about vibrations and energy." I have not the remotest idea what this means. What it all seems to amount to is that this former television presenter disliked another television presenter and so gave up her career in television. It's all very mysterious because apart from that question about whether models eat, we are told nothing at all about what this man said. As far as I can make out, all the allegations are similarly either vague or innocuous. It is, of course, quite possible that a 60-year-old man is a misogynist, and also that he gives some women the willies. I'm quite prepared to believe that that's true, but I wouldn't hang a dog on the evidence provided so far by Melanie Sykes. Most of the women I know would be quite capable of putting a man in his place if he said or did unacceptable things, but that doesn't appear to be what's going on here. He stood too close to women, told smutty jokes, and some women felt uncomfortable in his presence. Nobody, though, is willing to say what he has actually done wrong. I hope that no woman would feel uncomfortable in my presence, and I'm certainly not in the habit of telling dirty jokes or standing close to women to whom I am not married or related by blood. But if somebody hopes to destroy my livelihood, I hope they would at least be specific about what it was that I was alleged to have done. I honestly don't think that feeling uncomfortable is good and sufficient reason to harm a man's career, as seems to be happening in the case of this man. In the description to this video, I give a link to the YouTube video in which Melanie Sykes talks about her experiences with Gregg Wallace, but you'll have to listen out for anything relevant. Most of the thing is just an inarticulate person rambling on, swearing and throwing in bits of psychobabble. Heaven knows I am not a cynical man by any means, but it looks to me as if this Melanie Sykes woman keeps releasing videos to try and stimulate interest in her life and perhaps gear up a return to television. For example, she says that she has been diagnosed with autism at the age of 51, which I found a little puzzling. Is it really possible to live that long without noticing that one is on the autistic spectrum? She makes a living out of talking about this kind of thing and racism, sexism, misogyny and so on. So I'm not at all surprised to see her jumping onto the Gregg Wallace bandwagon with both feet. If only she would tell us what he actually did, other than giving out the wrong vibrations, that is.